can tempt you so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love. God speed your love to lonely rivers flow to the sea, to the sea, to the open arms of the sea. Lonely rivers cry, wait for me, wait for me. I'll be coming home, wait for me. And time goes by so slowly, and time can tempt you so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love. God speed your love to me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to FACFO, which is the Federation of African Caribbean Funeral Operatives. My name is Miss Lola Sarah, and I'm going to be your moderator this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your afternoon to be with us. So a few housekeeping rules. We ask that you please keep your cameras on where possible so we can see all your lovely faces. We also ask that you keep yourself on mute when you're not speaking so that there's no sort of background interruption. The hashtag for the launch day is FACFO. So please go ahead and start putting the hashtags on social media. Let's trend on social media today. And most importantly, please post your messages and questions in the chat and we will read them out and we'll also personally acknowledge you. I'm going to give you a rough idea of the agenda this afternoon. This is me doing the welcome. This is the housekeeping rules. And we're going to have an introduction to FACFO by Laura Puzzi, who is the founder of FACFO, which, as I've said, stands for the Federation of African Caribbean Operatives. She will let you know the reason why you're here today and why it's important. Then Tasha Brown, she's going to take you through the funeral industry in the UK, again, ensuring that you understand why it's really important that we have this federation. We've got a guest in America called Dr. Cami Fletcher. They've done something very similar in America and it's working, and she is responsible for the radical death studies. We've got advertisements as well that we're going to play for you. And of course, there's going to be lots of opportunities for you to ask questions, and we'll have a panel who will answer those questions for you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. My goodness, there are so many of you. So if I can just ask you to just put in the chat, you know, where you're logging in from this afternoon, that would be really, 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 really amazing. I think I might start it. So I've got messages already that says, good afternoon, everyone. Take my glasses off so I can see. We've got people that says, greetings to you all. Greetings, everyone. As I say, my name's Lola, and I'm going to put here, I am from Essex. and I'm coming to you live from Essex today. So do put in the chat where you're from. So I'm going to put Essex to start off with, so you can see that's where I am. I can see that there's somebody in a car. I can see, you can tell us where you're off to. I can see someone called Louise who's got a beautiful baby photo. I'm intrigued. Is that you as a baby? It looks like quite an old picture. I've got Louise Mohammed doing her little pose. You look serious, sis. I am absolutely loving that pose. There's the gentleman called 45 Lamin, and he's got surrounded by so many books. My goodness, I can see that you really are consuming books. I've got someone that says, hi, I'm from Wanstead in East London. Oh, I've got someone's from South London in Crystal Palace. Someone says that they're from Enfield in North London. And Diane just says, greetings to all from London. So it's really, as I said, really, really lovely to have you all this afternoon. Good afternoon. I am from East London, just finished a training session. It overran, hence why I'm in the car. Well, thank you that despite your training session that you're able to join us today, and we all say ha 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 to you as well. Thank you for being here. As I say, I've already shared the agenda with you, and so we are about to officially start. I'll mention again that we are live on YouTube, and this session is also being recorded. So at this point, I'm going to hand you over to Laura Puzu, who I said is the founder of FACFO, and she will explain to us all why we're here this afternoon. So Laura, if you can turn your camera on, I'm going to say over to you.
It's much better than usually talking football. Yeah. And much better is using the good one. Really? Yeah, because the rapid one I was using for 1 month, it's affected my battery.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Can we just have ask that everybody be muted? Oh, thank you so much for joining us all today. It is it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to have you all here. Thank you so much.
This is twice.
I'm hearing
that's for example, if you come back
going on. So I'm just closing down where I am. Sorry. Okay, so as many of you may know, my name is Laura Pusey, and I am the founder of FACFO, which is the Federation of African and Caribbean Funeral Operatives. I founded, well, the idea came to me in 2015 following the sad passing of my aunt, who lost her battle to cancer. From then, I realized that I had to do this work. I trained as an end-of-life guide, and I became a funeral celebrant. It was at that point that I realized that we were so missing from the experience of end-of-life, funeral, and our grief and bereavement was not being catered to adequately. I then put in place the idea of FACFO, not only to be able to serve the area that I live in, which is Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, but also to have a blanket coverage all over the UK. The intention is to find all of our brothers and sisters who are doing the work of end-of-life guidance. This is necessary on so many levels, and I am so glad to say that I have had so many fantastic conversations with brothers and sisters who have stepped up and stepped forward today, and the sun is out, to say that they are doing the work actively and are ready to take it. We're leveling up, brothers and sisters, and it's an honor to be part of this process, working side by side with you all. So this launch is aimed primarily at those who are practitioners, at those who are doing any kind of end-of-life work, any kind of funeral work, any kind of grief and bereavement work within the community. Now, let me just move so that you can see me better. The directory is for us and by us. It's for people of African and Caribbean heritage and origin to be able to share their services primarily with people from our own community and then to the wider communities. It is our intention to train up our youths so that they are in this work as well and carry through the importance of end-of-life guidance, the importance of our homegoing ceremonies, and the importance of our grief, and that grief being expressed as it should be, without suppression, without the stiff upper lip, without the shame, in all its glory. Our emotions are to be recognized and understood, or rather overstood at this time. So as we go through this launch, you will see that we have got so much planned for you. There is so much in place, and the future is definitely FACFO. We ask that you share this launch and any information that you get from us with your contacts. Of course, none of us know when we are going to die, but it is the one thing that we can be certain of. And so with that in mind, prepared, let's take the time now so that we don't have to worry in the future, so that our loved ones do not have to run around like headless chickens, unsure of what you would have wanted. We can provide everything we need within our communities. And I have been working with an outstanding group of service providers. I just want to run through them now. We've got Sister Amishade, we've got Sister Nunu Queenie Beloved, we have Sister Tashai Brown, we have Sister Lola Sarah, we have Sister Debbie from Serenity Gardens, who we hope you will be following into the next Zoom, which starts at 3 p.m. She will be hosting the Lost Cafe, and that will be the second part of this launch. All of the details will be shared in this link. And of course, I do believe myself, Laura Pusey, just to let you know that I am an end-of-life guide, I am a funeral celebrant, and I am a bereavement coach and mentor. So, without further ado, I would like to also just let you know that we will also be continuing with our launch from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. at Africation. Again, the link will be added to the chat, and in there we are going to be discussing the business of death. Right about now, we're looking at the business of FACFO, and the intention of FACFO is to have a directory that covers the whole of the UK. Indeed, FACFO is an international business already, because we have brothers and sisters abroad, and we have the matter of repatriation, education, and remembering to achieve through FACFO. As we go through the site and as we continue to grow with you all, you will definitely come to an understanding that death is not an end. It's not a sadness. It's a transition that we will all face. And long may we go into that transition with glory, knowing that we have worked with us, for us, and by us. So thank you very much. You'll probably hear more from me as the launch goes on, and I'm going to hand back over to Sister Lola Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm back with you again. Now, I'm actually quite excited. I just want to do something very, very quickly before I hand you over to Tasha. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to show you this glorious website. I hope you can see it. Right. This is the FACFO website. What we're looking to achieve today is to give people an opportunity to be able to register their services on the website. I'm pleased to say that we already have so many people that have registered their services on the website. So as soon as you come onto it, this is what you see. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to scroll down. and just show you a bit about it. So what you're going to see here is all the information you need about how to arrange, a funeral, register a death, dealing with the coroner, government support. So this is what members of the public are going to see if they need any sort of information. At some point, I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to tell you about you as a service provider and the different packages that we have, which is the bronze, the silver, and the gold, and we'll explain to you in further detail what that actually entails. But for now, I'm just going to run you sort of through the website, and as you can see, and as I say, there are people that have already sort of registered. I'm going to go back to the top. So as soon as people come in, they will see practitioners. Now, under practitioners, that's what they'll see. They'll see sort of African traditional ceremonies, bereavement support, remove my glasses, carers, chaplains, end-of-life guides, funeral arrangers, funeral celebrants, funeral directors, ministers, morticians and embalmers, nurses, nursing home, and repatriation services. So why don't I just choose one of those? Let's go to funeral celebrants. And as you can see, we already have a few funeral celebrants that are advertising their services with us already. So all you would have to do is click into one of the links. For example, if I click into that link, what you will then see is information about that particular service provider, exactly what it is that she offers. And at the bottom, you will see how you can contact this individual. If I go to the next bar, which is service providers, I absolutely love candles. So let's click on candles and see what's come up. As you can see, we've got 2 people that do memorial and remembrance candles that have already signed up. So if we just click on one of them, you'll see everything that you need to know about her website, her phone number, her address, and obviously her website link as well. So as members of the public, sort of come onto the directory, they will just be able to see the service that they're looking for. We've got another one that says cultural suppliers. I'm very much into drummers. So let's click on drummers. Voila, we've got someone that has signed up for the drumming service as well. So if we click into more, let's click into more. Hopefully you'll be able to just see a bit more about this person as well. It's got that he's a drummer, his name, how you contact him, his website, email address, social media handles, and the areas that he covers. So this is what people will see when you sign up. They will be able to find you either under practitioner, under the service provider, or under a cultural supplier. As I mentioned earlier, members of the public will be able to access all the various things that they need to know. When people die, people naturally assume that things have to be done urgently and immediately. And the reality is they don't. They have time. If your loved one ends up going to some of the more kind of established funeral director services, they will tell you that things have to be done very quickly. And a lot of that is to get you to sign a contract with them very quickly. And the reality is that if you're somebody that wants a particular type of ceremony or celebration for your loved one, you may be limited in what you'll be able to get. And the whole essence of FACFO is to give you a lot more choice and a lot more ability to be able to participate within it. As I said, we'll come back to the FACFO tiers, which is the bronze, silver, and gold, and I'll take you in much further detail what it is that you can get for the service and how much it costs. And the last bit says our story. So there's a little bit about us. And, in future, we want to be able to offer apprenticeship services. Of course, in the future, we want to be able to have our own sort of burial society. And all the way down, we've got, FACFO, we will have FACFO Aid, FACFO TV, a global network, the ability to be able to do research, and we'll obviously post our upcoming events as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. My goodness, I'm exhausted. That was just so exciting. I'm so excited about this, but it's important that you understand about the funeral industry in the UK. And for me, there's only one person that can explain that to us. And let me add her as a spotlight. Hi, Tasha, are you able to unmute yourself? If you are. Hi, Tasha. How are you?
I'm really excited to be here. So thank you, guys.
Good. I mean, when I first met you, as you know, I was completely mesmerized by what you do. Can you just tell people, first of all, what it is that you actually do?
Okay, so I'm an embalmer. I'm a funeral professional. I think at the time when we'd met, that's what I was doing. I have gone on now to training and teaching. So now I'm a qualified assessor for the funeral apprenticeship. But my embalming qualification or my specialism is in the mortuary. So I deal with long-term preservation, reconstruction, and really the presentation of how we present our loved ones, specifically for those who want to be embalmed. Now, it is optional, not everybody wants to be embalmed, but for those that do, usually they call on my service, and I specialise in restorative and reconstruction. So unfortunately, if someone's been in a severe accident and there's lots of trauma to their physical appearance, my job is to try and bring a peace-like appearance. And that's usually for young people that's maybe, God forbid, been in a car accident. Families are really struggling to deal with the loss, so they will call in specialist embalmers to do that.
So in a nutshell, you just see lots and lots and lots of dead bodies.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, my journey throughout the funeral industry has been roughly around about 15 years. So I didn't always start out by doing the mortuary side of things. I did start out as an arranger, was a funeral director, and also a funeral operative. So I've seen every aspect of the funeral industry. I've done every role, including cleaning as well, within the mortuary and within the funeral home. But my heart and passion lies with that final stop, which is, how do we look? How are you presenting someone's loved one? And from my own personal experience, I see many, many times how it's gone wrong and how it is wrong. And that tends to be because there's a lack of representation in that industry. There's a lack of compassion when it comes to how we present and preserve our loved ones. A lot of ignorance when it comes to our own customs and practices, and just how we present ourselves. When I look at my grandma, God rest her soul, when she was alive, parents of that particular age group presented themselves in a particular way. They wouldn't go to church without their gloves, maybe their hat. They would make sure they're nicely well moisturized, and their hair would be done in a certain way. So there's an importance to have people that understand that and will really apply them rituals or techniques to the final passage, so to speak, or the final makeover.
I have to say that I work in this death and dying sort of industry, and I have been to a lot of funerals and seen quite a few sort of dead bodies in a coffin. And there are times when I'm just mortified. I'm like, one, it doesn't look like the person. They look ash, and it just doesn't look like them. And I guess this is just a general awareness about the fact that a lot of the more established funeral industry directors, they don't know how to cater for people who die of our skin tone. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely, 100%. It's one of the main reasons why I got into the funeral industry, was because I had my own personal experience with my auntie, and she looked grey, she wasn't presented well, and I had to go in there and say, right, I want to make my auntie up. I want to make sure she looks the best that she can. Now, there are some things that are, obviously, once you're in the industry, you will know that we cannot control the process of deterioration, and there are significant changes that can happen. But things like the basic things like presenting someone's hair in the right way, making sure someone is well moisturized and well clean, that's regardless of the actual chemical procedure that is done through embalming. And I always say, for example, as women, and I say just as women as a generalization, have you ever gone to the Boots makeup store or MAC or somewhere and gone and paid, I don't know, 40, 50 quid to go and get your makeup done by a professional? You expect them to do your makeup how they would do anyone else's makeup, but understand your tones. They've got all the equipment there. So why do I come out looking like a clown the majority of the time? Yeah. And it's because there is this lack of understanding of how to work with the tones, how to work with darker skin tones. basically, and there is no real formal training, because to the majority of people within the industry, there isn't a problem. And I've found this when I've challenged other embalmers and I've challenged the curriculum when I was studying at the time. It's like, why isn't there a unit specifically on dealing with dark skin, on melanated skin? How come we're not looking at the different customs of the different people that we're serving? You know, take the Sikh community, for example. Why are we not taught how to wrap and tie a turban? Why are we just relying on the family to do that as their responsibility, but we're taking all this money from them? Well, give them some discount, because that's part of their preparation. You should be able to do that. And I say that in saying that I have done that myself. I have taught myself how to do these things. I've gone actively out to the Sikh community and asked to be shown how to do this. So why is it, you know, just, you know, there's one rule for one and another rule for others? But then the question is, why is there not enough of us coming forward to be a part of this industry? And during COVID,
that's my question for you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the spotlight off of me, and I'm going to put the spotlight on you, and I want you to tell us just that about why FACFO is important and just your experiences during COVID. So let me remove myself and over to you officially, Tashai.
Yeah, I mean, FACFO, this is such a progressive movement. It really is, and a business, and it's going to flourish because the more people understand that the funeral business is one that is guaranteed. It's always going to be in business. So when we look at careers and professions, during COVID, there has been a huge spike in the profits in the funeral industry. The funeral business has done extremely well because of all the restrictions that's gone on, and there hasn't been much discount given when it comes to the actual cost of funerals. You're still paying the same amount, even though you're only allowed 15 people there. Only, you know, even though you're not allowed to view in the same way as we did right at the beginning. From a business perspective, it's very lucrative. And when we look at having generational wealth, these are the types of industry that we really need to be advocating for, that we really need to be getting behind and championing, because it's very lucrative. And when you look at traditional funeral businesses, families inherit them. My granddad was a funeral director. His father before him was a funeral director, and so on and so on. And I don't understand how comes as a community we kind of frown upon it. We really do. We frown upon all these superstitions, but our counterparts don't do that. They're very aware of what industries do very well. And it's one of the easiest industries to actually be a part of, in terms of there's not much governance. There isn't much restriction in terms of how you go about setting up a funeral home. Pretty much anyone can go out and set up a funeral home, as long as they know how and they know how to connect the dots. It's that simple. And it's got longevity. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Like, why are we not taking more ownership just on a practical standpoint in terms of, you know, financial growth within our community? So I think there was a question that had come up, or there was a comment about co-op or something. It's just come off my screen.
It says the co-op is buying up a lot of the funeral homes.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. And that's because they're a huge corporation, they're a huge business. They have the assets and they can afford to and have the reputation. Doesn't mean to say that there isn't enough business out there for anyone else to set up their own funeral homes. But when we look at it spiritually and just as a people and being more progressive as a group of people, we need to take lead from what the Muslims have done, what the Jews have done or are doing. Even the Sikh community within themselves, and obviously our Caucasian brothers and sisters here, like they have mastered this unity of coming together and really putting their pounds within their own community. And we are getting better at it, but this is the reason why, you know, FACFO is so important, because not only are we creating opportunities for professionals within this industry to flourish and to really have the resources and the opportunity to deliver their services and their expertise, they're getting the opportunity to service their people and to really rebuild and restore some of the damages that's been done and that will continuously be done. Because throughout COVID, we saw how it affected the African Caribbean community in particular, because of the way we mourn our loved ones, because of our own traditions and customs. We're used to having big families there. We're used to having, you know, a celebration of someone's life. So the fact that we're not actually encouraging people to be a part of, you know, the funeral industry, I think there's something that FACFO is going to be a really, you know, good organization to really help do that, you know, and to have a directory where we're creating more choice and we're giving families more opportunities to take control over, you know, where they want to spend their money. You know, if you've got a choice to buy flowers from a black florist, then to me, that's kind of like a no-brainer. But a lot of times we don't know that there are florists in our communities that can service that. If you have a choice to have a African Caribbean celebrant who reflects your family and understands you and what you've been through as a family, if you know that that person's there, then it's about creating choice. And that's what FACFO is doing. It's giving our people, our community, choice. So here is a directory where we have listed all the professionals within the funeral industry. You have the choice now to pick and mix, so to speak, who you want to deliver the services for your loved one. And I think that's very beautiful, and it's very powerful, and it's very empowering as well. And what we're doing, we're changing the makeup of funerals, where we're showing that there's this we've evolved. There are Black professionals in the funeral industry that are doing extremely well. You know, I work for a few, well, one mainly, a great funeral directors that is booming, doing really, really well, service the community fantastically, and are creating opportunities for their employees and their wider community. And there's other funeral professionals and celebrants, and you guys that are all here that are, you know, professionals within this industry. So this directory gives the wider community the opportunity to see us and to acknowledge us and to make that choice for themselves, to say, actually, Co-op might do my mum's funeral, but guess what? I would like to hire my celebrant. I've got my own celebrant. Guess what? I've actually got my own pallbearers that I prefer to use. I've actually got drummers. I would prefer drummers there than having like classical music, because that drummer will reflect my African heritage. You know, I've got dancers, I've got, you know, venues, I've got all these options that other communities have. FACFO is creating this beautiful platform where we're giving choice, and I think that is very beautiful and it's powerful, and I'm glad to be a part of it, both as an embalmer but also as a funeral professional. Like I said, I'm going more into training now. I'm already looking at doing, you know, we're doing and delivering the apprenticeship, so it'd be nice to be in a position where my services are actually benefiting the people from my community.
Thank you. Now, people have been sending questions to me personally. Everyone seems to have my phone number. So the question, phone's going off. So, and that's an interesting point that you've made. And perhaps a lot of people don't know that the job of a funeral director, I suppose, is to come and collect the body and to store it, isn't it? You know, or in essence, but it doesn't mean that you have to use every single service that they are offering. That's what you've just said, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, a lot of people, we don't know about, we don't have enough conversations about the funeral industry. So we don't know what the law is, we don't know the governance, we don't know what we can and can't do. We're kind of being bombarded with, this is the role of the funeral director, this is the role of the funeral home. We give them our loved ones and we pay them the money and they deal with it all. And yet that is so true. Funeral professionals have a certain mindset and they're able to deal with a lot of the issues and traumas and circumstances that we see. And that's why the average person, so to speak, prefers to just part with their money and give it to that person. However, like any other industry, you have choice. And I always say it's very much like organizing a wedding. You know, it is about window shopping. It is about going to people with the best reputation. Sometimes it is about group dynamics as well. It is actually about, I might need to use that funeral home because they represent me and my beliefs and my ethics, and they might not be the best funeral home, but they're from my community and my money's going back into my community. Because at the same time, I have worked for big companies within the funeral industry. And yes, it's been a great experience, but there's been a lot of ignorance that has actually made me become independent. That's made me now go down a different route. So without, I don't want to say anything that's going to bash anyone in particular, but we have to look at things more pragmatically as well when we're looking at bereavement and so on. I know it's a difficult place to be in because you're grieving, you've got all these emotions, but this is why the directory is there, because actually it's showing that there is choice and we can advocate on families' behalf. So I always say to people in my community, anyone that rings, if you are faced with that difficult time, ring me before you ring anyone else. Give me a call if you've got my number, and I will give you the initial advice that you need. I will recommend funeral homes that I personally work with and I work for, and I can say to you, they'll do this and this is what will happen. You know, and I say, if you're in legal problems, you will ask someone in your family who's a lawyer. Yeah. You wouldn't go outside of your family if you had a lawyer and you've got a legal matter. If you've got a medical matter, you probably ask the advice of the doctor that's in your family. So why are we not doing that in terms of with the funeral industry? We lose someone and we ring that commercial business on the high road that doesn't reflect who we are as a people and how we mourn and how we celebrate our loved ones. Absolutely. And Tasha, so there is choice.
I have got a lot more questions for you, and towards these, so please don't go anywhere. There's questions on the chat which I'm going to ask you when I bring you back to form part of the question and answer panel. I hope you found that really, 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 really interesting. Now, it's important for you to understand in greater detail why we are doing this. I am delighted to introduce to you all Dr. Cami Fletcher. She's from America, and she's going to tell us how they started in America and the reason why it's absolutely fundamental that we do the same in the UK. Dr. Cami, is it okay if I'm going to spotlight you? Sure. Hello. Good afternoon from us. I know it's quite early in the morning where you are. And in fact, nobody wants to listen to me. Can I hand straight over to you to introduce yourself and just tell us about how you started in the United States? Over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited when I got the email from Laura Pusey. I was really excited to know, again, in this global African diasporic network, that you all were organizing as such. So I'm happy to be here. Unfortunately, I can't stay too long, but my information is on the PowerPoint. I have a few slides that I want to just show you all. But my name is Dr. Cami Fletcher. I'm a historian at Albright College in Pennsylvania and in the US, really close to Washington, D.C. And so my work, I examine African-American death ways and death work. I have been researching for over 10 years the first autonomously Black cemetery in Baltimore, and how these folks that were freed, they were also enslaved, how they used death, work to resist slavery, to resist the plantation complex, to resist racism, to establish citizenship rights, to establish burial rights, to establish generational wealth building. And so that's some of what I want to share with you today. Looks like I can share my screen and just kind of get started with a few slides here and then see if there are questions. So my group and I, the Collective for Radical Death Studies, this was started in December 2018. And it was exactly, what I just talked about. It was a call to decolonize death studies. And that's really what I want to talk with you about. So I'm the president of the Collective for Radical Death Studies. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter at Cami Fletcher 36. I'm very active there in my intellectual pursuits, my academic career as a death scholar and a historian, please feel free to email me at Cami@radicaldeathstudies.com. And so let's just kind of get into it. Again, this is about decolonizing death studies. What does that mean? That means decentering whiteness. In the US, and I would argue throughout the world, honestly, this idea of death has just collapsed as Europeans went out and colonized, right? Their norms, their culture, their way of life, their language, their dress, all of that became the norm, also death as well. So there's a serious idea of decentering whiteness. And then there's also a seriousness of placing death ways and death work of Black, Indigenous, people of color at the center. So that is absolutely where you start. Here in the US, there is this idea that death is the great equalizer, and people swallow it up whole. We may have systems of oppression in life, but in death, everybody dies. So death is the great equalizer, right? And nothing could be further from the truth when we talk about the way in which people die. The institution of slavery, the transatlantic slave trade. Maurice Jackson, who I'll quote him on the next slide, says, "All people die, but do not all people die alike." He talks about the slave trade. He talks about the institutions in which Black folks are dying, genocide, the plantation complex, lynching, government sanctioned violence, the Tuskegee experiment. Those are unnatural deaths, right? So we have to look at how colonialism, we have to look at how these systems of oppression are providing people of color. And my research deals specifically on Black people, that these are unnatural deaths, right? So then why is death so white? Death ways and death work has been associated with Europe, European descendants, and it is focused on them, especially when we look at cemeteries. And a lot of my research focuses on this because the cemetery is where we remember ourselves. And us here in the US, we got our ideas for this rural garden, 100-acre cemetery, right, from Europe. And this is how we choose to remember ourselves. We don't want to remember the Native American cemeteries because our field of archaeology has been built on that, where we can go out and we can just dig up these Native American relics, put them in museums without anybody's consent, right? Slave cemeteries, places where free Blacks were buried. I'll talk about that probably later on, where they've been paved over due to urban development. Condos are built on top of those, right? The places we want to remember are really in New England, the first kind of 13 colonies, if you get a little history here. So we have to decenter this and say, okay, whose memory are we remembering? Whose memory has really been ensconced in the American identity, and who has been excluded, right? So that's how death has really gotten so white. And again, death ways and death work has been about marginalizing, dismissing, and just completely misunderstood. And I'll get in this a little bit. The historiography of death in this country, Jessica Mitford herself is a European. American, the American Way of Death, that's the name of her book, and it is canonical. You cannot understand or study anything about death in this country without studying that her work. When I read that book later in my work, I thought, oh my goodness. As a historian, I'm looking right at her sources. Very early on, the National Funeral and the National Funeral Directors Association that was started late 19th century here, early on it was segregated. So much so that the National Association for Funeral Morticians had to organize themselves. That was the Black organization. So death early in this country, death work as an industry has been segregated, right? And in our country here, we talk about that there's this death phobia here. Americans are afraid of death. And the support for that is that death used to be in the home and folks took care of it in the home. But once hospitals were established, we pushed death the same way we push cemeteries out of our city center. We push death from our home to the hospital. That was Jim Crow segregation. Black folks weren't even allowed into the cemetery. Again, so we have to find out what's going on here. So it's just one layer, and we are really talking about anti-racism work. I position my work with the Collective for Radical Death Studies. This is social justice work that we're doing. And again, I just want to invite you to go to our webpage, check us out. This is what we're about. Radicalizing death work. Sign up for our newsletter. We've got a trip to Ghana coming up this summer. Well, that's field, but you'd have to go next summer, the summer afterwards. But we are really about centering BIPOC voices, people of color. We have a canon. I'll talk about that in a second. But this is how we came to organize, because we saw so many gaps in how people were being trained, similar to FACFO and what we're talking about here. So just going back, our canon, like I said, people were reading stuff that was just allowing so many gaps. And what we've done is how we've organized the canon, women and end of life. Now, women here have really been taking up a central role in death, which is important. But again, these are white women. When you look at the death doula movement, and they're doing some very important work to push back against the death industry. But again, these are white women that are centering themselves as doulas. And one of the things that's very problematic about that is that they are saying that historically, this has been the role of women. And I'm saying, as a historian, this has been the role of poor women, of women of color. Very similar to the way in which women of color and poor women have historically been nurses, have historically nursed babies, and have historically been these helpmates. So again, they're centering themselves in a narrative that they never were in. Making important strides, but it's important to find your place in that, right? So we have readings on colonization, capitalism, and genocide. People are dying. How have their death ways been completely uprooted, obliterated, and just remade due to this? Looking at culture and ethnicity, and I'll click on this one because we then have African diasporic ways, Mesoamerican, Mestizian death ways, as we're talking about this, right? And looking at traditional folks' death ways, queer death, and then this just is a list A to Z. So I'll end with a few more slides saying what the actions of what we've done. We believe very seriously about educating folks. And it's not in a situation to punish people or tell them you're wrong, but we create these spaces every other month. And we just finished one called Rad Death Reads. And you can just see a few featured here where it's not videotaped. There's no record of it whatsoever. Right. And we invite everyone to come in and let's talk about a topic. So here's one, but I'll just click on so that you can see our last one. In October it's centered completely on Uganda. The myth or promise of home return, changing African death ways. And I'll see if our calendar is here so you can see a little bit more. No, our calendar isn't here. But this focused completely on Uganda. And again, this invited folks, and we had a rich conversation about that. You're either an expert or you're someone that is an expert researcher, and we center your voice here, and we spend 4 weekends every other month, like I said, Saturdays and Sundays, just digging in and discussing. Another thing that we do is our YouTube page, where we have invited panels of, again, experts and practitioners in the field to just talk about the wonderful work in which they're doing. And I encourage you to, watch some of these. Really, in this kind of last one we had on material culture and the ways in which photography and consent and human remains, it was very, very well received. But even this one is about disaster and violence and recovering body. So we really center education, and we get voices that normally are outside of the education involved in this. And again, this is right on our website where we've talked about the ways to decolonize death studies is you have to dismantle Eurocentrism that literally frames last rites rituals while pushing to centralize death rituals of communities of color, We're very, very big on doing that. I've written a lot on this. And so this is a blog that I've written. The next thing that, that I encourage, this is Jessica Mifford. Like I said, I've written on this, what she missed, and specifically how she's framed the American funeral director in these very broad brushes that leaves no understanding for whiteness, leaves no understanding for people of color, no understanding of gender. And so, again, you really have to look at how white privilege has pervaded death work. The third, four things, deconstructing historical ways in which white privilege has pervaded death work. You have to remove the hyper focus on this Eurocentric cemetery. And I talked about this early on. There's grassroots organizations specific to the African American Cemetery Coalition that I am involved with, where we're pushing back against land ownership. That was a very big issue, and it still is historically for Black folks. Who owns this land that our ancestors are buried on? The developers who are putting up condos say, oh, I have the deed, I own it. Historically, these plantations where enslaved Africans were enslaved and forced to labor. This is what white slaveholders said. I have the paper deed, so I own it. But the Black folks who made this plantation as prosperous as it is, and we're the descendants, we're saying our ancestors are buried there, we own it. So there's a serious tug of war that's absolutely happening right now. And so my last slide centers on raising awareness of the systemic oppression that undergirds mortality and fatality of marginalized groups of people of color. And you saw this around the world when George Floyd was murdered, a call to action due to his death. And Black folks in the US specifically, and throughout the African diaspora, have been doing this. We've been using our death and our death ways as agency, as a call to arms. So I want to thank you all for inviting me in and listening. I have about 20 minutes. If anybody has questions, I'd love to answer them. But if not, I'm going to put my email in the chat and just ask folks to reach out to me.
My goodness, Dr. Cami, I don't even know where to start from. First of all, thank you so much for that. I mean, I've been enlightened today, I have to say. But can I ask you, why is it important for us to do a similar thing in the UK?
It's, again, the binding theme is colonization, right? So we are all in the diaspora. And there's a serious social erasure that happens with deathways. And it does a thing of where it's trying to help us. Oh, we're all the same. We don't want to have these divides. They do that with us in the US. Why do you have a historically Black college? Why do you have these spaces where Black folks gather? First of all, to protect ourselves from whiteness and racism, right? And so death is the same way too. To know your death ways is to know your history. And I got in a little bit on what the last presenter was talking about. To erase how we prepare and how we prepare the body, the meaning around the body, the meaning around our burial spaces, honestly, is to erase us as Black folks. Our saving grace, which was also so dehumanizing, was Jim Crow segregation for us here in the States. One of the reasons why you can look at a homegoing celebration now, if you saw George Floyd's funeral, that homegoing celebration mirrors what happened in 1910, 1890 here, because white folks very early on separated themselves from us. So the death industry, they left us to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So we were able to protect and hold on to stuff that our ancestors, trying to hold on to something from Africa, was able to pass down to us. It's history. It is history. Turning that mirror around, putting the cloth over the clock, over the mirror, over the clock, stopping the clock, all of the grave goods, all of that stuff helps connect us back to who we are. It's the same thing as us losing our name, right? Losing our clothes, our dress, our language. You know, we in the US are really struggling to find that here. And we've been on a real quest, of course, for forever. But I think with the publication of Roots by Alex Haley in 1970s was that. But again, it's important because it is, you really do lose your history. And then there's this idea of you just kind of latching on to what the colonizer does. And I'm not going to say that nothing's necessarily wrong with that, because of course, if you look at what we've done here in the US, a lot of death material culture, there's a negotiation there. And that, you know, nothing absolutely is wrong with that. We all negotiate, but to just lose it really can be to just lose your history.
But there may be some people, Dr. Cami, that would say, look, okay, we're talking about, you know, the 1940s and 1920s, you know, why can't we all just get along and live in love, peace, and harmony? Why do we continue to pull back Black people back to the 1960s, to the 1950s? Can't we, now that we're in a more kind of liberal society, can't we just naturally integrate and just get on with it? What would your response be to that?
Our society doesn't want us. They want us to acculturate, perm my hair, not be threatening, wear a suit, smile all day. But we are not truly assimilated until the society accepts us. Right. And this is why Black folks are still being killed, right, at alarming rates. Black women are still being victimized at alarming rates, raped, killed, right? This is we're talking about systemic. We're not talking about our happy white neighbor next door. This is systemic in the ways in which Black folks are dying. That shows you. COVID, for example, was just hitting Black communities like a bomb. And us over here, you know, we're all watching the news. We're slow. The, you know, news networks were slow to pick up on this. I remember there was a news article, out of 14 people at that time, somewhere around April 2020, every person that had died of COVID was Black. Every single person. Right. And so this is not about how do we get along. We cannot be naive to that type of what is it? Colorblind racism is what it is. Again, because it just negates the system. And I'm not being pulled back to the 60s. The 60s is pulling me back. The racism is absolutely, you know what I mean, still there. And George Floyd's murder, Breonna Taylor's murder, you know, these things that Black folks in the US specifically, you know, have been fighting against for years. Racism reinvents itself. Michelle Alexander has a wonderful book, The New Jim Crow, and how it continues to reinvent itself. And this kind of colorblind racism moment is what we're living in now. Lots of upwardly mobile Black folks, right? But still there is a system to try to keep us in check and keep us in place. And you can look at our death waves. And one more thing I'll just add to that, Miss Lola. As I do research on Jim Crow cemeteries, again, when Jim Crow was enacted here saying that public is now the domain of white people, the library where we live, everywhere, 1896. In January of this year, this man who was of color in Louisiana, he died. His wife went to try to get him a burial space. And the people there told him, no, we do not sell to Negroes, or I think they use the word Black people. 2021, January 2021. So this is what I'm saying. We're still in this until these systems that colonialism has so just concretized, until we have to uproot these systems, they've got to come crumbling down.
Another question for you is, even within the Black industry themselves, D stands for everything apart from death and dying. There's a lot of suspicion about death and dying. And that's probably the reason why, you know, white folks, so to speak, have been able to take control over it. What would you say to us? Can you address us specifically about what we need to do and the types of education that we absolutely need to understand?
So interesting. The last presenter was talking about co-ops are buying up these funeral homes. It is death. The death industry is a billion-dollar industry here. We have a very similar thing. This, oh goodness, SCI, I think is the name of it. And this may be happening over there. You all can let me know. Is that funeral homes are a family, really a family business here. And so now when the owners are retiring or they die out, the children don't necessarily want to go into the work. These cemetery corporations that are absolutely white owned come right in, swoop it up, and they keep all the Black employers, they keep the name. So you think you're going to a Black funeral home, but you're going to SCI. And they've been doing this, right? They've been doing this since it started with the American Association of Cemetery Superintendents that, again, was segregated, 1887. So I think if we're talking dollars and cents, you need to understand who's owning it, who's controlling it. And I see nothing wrong with organizing. And let me know if I'm not hearing your question about there is suspicion around death and dying. But the way I'm hearing it is folks don't want to be involved in it. Okay, you don't want to be involved in, you don't want to be a mortuary person. You don't want to be a funeral director or own anything like that. You've already given up control to folks that, if I'm again hearing you right, that is something that is still very sacred. There's a lot of different research here in the States and possibly here in where you are around younger people. Black folks don't all live together, so we're dispersed. I mean, even in the US, and I'm sure even in London, and so we just want the better deal. But there's still this idea of making sure, and the last presenter was just saying it, that I look like, my person looks like themselves in death. The hair is together, the makeup is together, the nails are together. If you don't have a hand in that, you've already lost, right? So I can't tell you to go be, a mortician. I myself am not a mortician. I'm a historian. I'm very involved in telling the story. That's my thing. That's why I got into this. I'm sick of white folks trying to tell our story in a white savior type complex. Not every white person is doing this, right? We've got to get that out there. But if you're not involved in it, then how can you have a say? And I think that's where FACFO is coming in to try to educate folks in these gaps of repatriation is very real in London. And so if you have someone that can be educated around the legal ramifications, my good friend that's in Uganda that led our Rad Death Reads was talking about that. You need somebody that understands that visa process. You need somebody that understands that red tape, the bureaucracy, and be able to understand these things. And if you don't, then how is repatriation, that's so very critical to many communities where you are, how is that going to happen? So I guess that's what I'm saying. You have to get involved in it, or you're going to be left to not have a say.
Absolutely. And, we do know that you've very graciously given us of your time this afternoon, and that you do have to go. But are there any final thoughts that you would like to leave with all of us that are here this afternoon?
I just keep doing what you're doing. Keep organizing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. The Black Cemetery collection that I'm a part of is really grassroots. These are folks there's a cemetery that I know of that has Black folks buried in it. We're not even related by blood, but I can't believe that it is in ruins like this. And this is folks that just started asking questions, kept digging, pulled out some time and just started to organize. Keep organizing, keep asking questions, understand you're going up against a system. And that's kind of what we found ourselves with. But we were able to gain momentum and have folks that are in the legislature come talk with us, see our needs and what, you know, we have going on. And I encourage you to do the same thing as well. But the death industry, again, is a $1 billion business. They have a lot to lose if you start hitting them in the pocket. And that is just the honest to goodness truth. But keep doing what you're doing and find people that are doing what you're doing and organizing. You are so, you were just better in numbers. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm so excited to have come here and be a part of it. And please feel free to reach out to me.
And my final question before we let you go, we understand that there's a trip coming up. Do you have a trip coming up? Is it next year? And can you tell us a bit about that? And is it open to all? Is it a small group? And yes.
No, I would love to do that. And that's out of our education and outreach. We really believe in doing that. So we are going to Ghana, June 16th, I think, 16th through the 26th, or 17th through the 27th. And it is open to everyone. Unfortunately, we've reached our max. We just really capped out. Folks were really excited about this for 2022. We hope to do it again in 2023. And that's one of those things where we're not going to Ghana to do service learning and tell these people what they're doing. We're going to listen. We're going to listen. We're going to learn from some of the oldest folks to have done death work. You all may be familiar with fantasy coffins. And again, this is how we are decolonizing and decentering the narrative. And again, we're learning from the people who are in mortuary science, who do traditional ways of learning. In Ghana, Accra, that region where we will be in, we know that funerals happen on the weekend, and really just trying to learn from these folks, right? And just soak everything that we can up. But also not to take as our own. That's something that folks here in the U.S. need to stop. There's a whole thing in the U.S. with white folks saying, "Oh, death isn't scary anymore," and they're attaching themselves to Dia de los Muertos, and sugar skulls are everywhere. That's not your culture. You can't just take people's the parts you like of it. So hopefully this trip is that as well. I'm hoping that this can happen every year, and we go to places like Egypt, go to Uganda, and you know, places in South America where we again are doing this decolonial work, where we're understanding colonization, understanding how folks have remade these rituals, things that they've been able to hold on to. I'm a big proponent of not being voyeuristic. So what is the US's relationship to this country? How have they affected death and death ways that, you know, an imperialistic or colonization standpoint? So that's what we're doing. And I thank you for giving me space to talk about that. I'm really excited about it.
So everyone, you've heard it from Dr. Cami herself. Follow her on absolutely every social media platform that she has. We cannot go to Ghana, I'm so upset, but we're going to watch this space so that we can follow you wherever you go next. It has been the privilege of our lives to just listen to this presentation. And I hope that everybody agrees with me. Dr. Cami Fletcher, thank you very, very, very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate that. Looking forward to future talks. Y'all have a great one.
Thank you. Now you've heard it yourself. I don't know what else I need to say beyond what Dr. Cami has already said. It is only going to lead me, obviously, to just ask you, for those of you that are here, can you put in the chat, please, what you do? Are you in the funeral industry? And if you are, can you let us know what you do? I'll give you sort of a few minutes to sort of put that in the chat. Are you already working in the funeral industry? And if you are, what is it that you do? It will be very interesting to know. I've got to take my glasses off to be able to read what people are saying. I'm in the funeral industry. I work in legal services. I do probate. I'm also an end-of-life death practitioner, that's me, and also training currently to become a funeral celebrant. Let's read what Peter's put. Peter's talked about repatriation. He said repatriation is mostly expensive due to the flight costs, as well as the transportation taxes and costs to the airport. Most people who want a repatriation want to have a service here. Then they want to fly the body home. So that adds to the cost. And Louise Mohammed says, she said, thank you, doctor, awesome presentation. She didn't even think about deathways as she had sort of described it. Whilst you're putting on here what you do, I'm going to share our FACFO website with you again. We are looking for, you've heard what Dr. Cami has said, you've heard what Tashai has said. We really need to be able to organize ourselves a bit more than how we're currently doing. And, my mother was born a Muslim, and she sort of converted to Christianity somewhere along the line. So I know everything about Islam. And what is so special about Islam is that they really have, I have to say, organized themselves in such a strategic way that in the United Kingdom today, it is possible for someone to die in the morning and be buried in the evening. That's quite unusual, particularly if the body doesn't have to be referred to the coroner, because within the whole industry, within Islam, they have organized themselves that they have doctors, family doctors available that are able to go to the house and certify the person is dead. They have their own people that you can call that will assist you with the green forms and assist you with everything that makes it they've got obviously imams that are in place that can easily be available to do the prayers. So even if the person can't be buried that day, definitely within sort of 2 days, they can ensure that the body is in the ground. This is quite usual. This is quite very unusual for Western society, but because they have really come together to ensure that they're able to do this, they have deliberately ensured that they have people that work within those industries to be able to make it happen. And what we're trying to achieve with FACFO, as you've heard from Tashai, you've also heard from Dr. Cami, is to make sure that when Black people die, I've used the word Black deliberately, forgive me if you're offended by that terminology, no offense is intended, that when Black people are at the end of life, able to make sure that we've got end-of-life practitioners that can be with them, that when they pass away, we've got funeral arrangers, we've got funeral directors, we've got funeral celebrants. And if you're the type of person that wants a traditional type of funeral, i.e. the calling of your ancestors, or you want shrouds, or you want any particular type of practice, we want to make sure that you can get that in 2021 Britain. That's what we're trying to achieve. To make sure that whatever it is you want, you're able to get that. And I know, Peter's here, and I know that, he's a sort of funeral sort of director, and I'm delighted that we're beginning to have more and more Black-owned funeral directors, services. I know there's a lady in Essex where I live, and slowly people are coming forward. And the reality is people like Peter have always been there. It's just that I didn't know you existed. I just didn't know. My sister's husband died, and the co-op took his body away. If I knew you existed, then we would have come to people like you to do it. Everything ended up being done by the co-op. So that's what this directory is about. The most important thing for me is to just, if I go to the register service, I want to be able to tell you what it is that we offer. Let me go down first. So if you are a funeral practitioner, please register. We offer a bronze service, which is free, but you do have to pay £25 per year. It's just one-off, and that just caters to sort of being able to maintain your listing. Within that, you get a listing in the directory. You'll be able to tell us what you do. You have an image, your location map, and contact details. I'll take you into it, further details. The silver is £120 per annum. At the moment, we're trying to arrange for people to be able to pay monthly. We're still waiting for PayPal to give us that sort of button, but it's £120 per annum. You get a listing in the directory, being able to advertise your product or service. You know, you've got 3 pictures that you can do, a business description, your location, contact, plus you can add information. We've called it blurb, but you know what I mean, information about what it is that you do. That will provide a link to your website, add your social media handles, and sort of star ratings and review. The gold service gives you everything that the silver service offers. Plus, up here, go up, this little pretty thing that looks like, that says advertise here. Your service will be advertised on the carousel, which will be constantly scrolling. You'll be able to do a 2-minute advert and it'll be featured in FACFO TV. And we'll give you a 1-hour free interview of your products and services again, that you'll be able to do on FACFO TV. So this is the membership here is just so that you can see what you get. Now, what you'd have to do, though, if you're interested in registering, is go to the top where it says register your service. If you go into FACFO Bronze, this is what you're able to do. You're able to fill out the form with the details that are required. So your name, phone number, website, location, you know, about you, and the category, and you will be able to sort of pay. And we offer a bespoke service, because once you've done that, one of us from the team, either Laura or myself, we will contact you. We'll get more information about your organization and what you do, and help you a little further. If you click on silver, you'll automatically see that silver offers you a lot more in in the information you can put in. This is where you can add your photos, put in the categories. If there's any sort of qualifications or experience that you want people to know about. And if you already have sort of testimonials on your own website, you want to be able to post them here, it's something that you will be able to do. And finally, if you go back to register, if I go to the gold, oh, my little mouse trap is moving rather quickly. I decided that I was going to become all technical and move away from just, so if you go to gold, let's click on gold, my little finger. Oh, let's click on, see if I can click on gold. There we go. Let's go at the bottom. And also down here as well, you see the services here, bronze, silver, and gold. So we're asking you to come join the FACFO family, come join the FACFO family, come and be part of what it is that we're doing. And of course, the other thing that I'm delighted to be able to say is that for members of the community who have gone onto the FACFO website and actually haven't been able to find somebody within the industry, what they have done is that they've called Laura, and Laura has been able to refer them and signpost them to you. And I know, Laura, if you take yourself off mute, I know that after you did a radio show, somebody came to you, didn't they? I'm going to add you to my spotlight. And would you mind telling people that story?
Yes, so we have had a few people, even yesterday, I have spoken to a sister who said that her sister-in-law was buried this week, and they were able to use the members that are already on the directory to actually ensure that the sister was given the end of life service that was due to her. I was contacted recently following an interview on the radio, thinking that it was just be somebody telling me about their wonderful service. And it was in fact a lady needing a whole funeral. She needed everything and she didn't know where to start. Who was doing the work? She didn't live in the area that the person who had passed away was in. And so she contacted FACFO. The number was given to her by somebody who had listened to the interview that I had done. We are already working. FACFO is already in operation. I have had people who have called me to say, I've heard about FACFO. Can you please be a celebrant at a funeral? Word of mouth is getting around, and we do have social media. I will be honest and say it's not my strongest point, but I will be keeping social media up. But more importantly for me, will be to actually travel up and down the UK, to go to our organisations and really have those grassroots conversations with the people in those areas who are doing the work. In the areas that we find ourselves lacking of service providers, my team, and I have such a strong and beautiful team who actually are experts, qualified to train us to do the work. There is no need for us to go outside of our community for any form of permission or training or guidance. We have everything inside us. And, you know, Sister Tasha has spoken so much. What she was saying is so layered. There are so many things that I would love to just pick up on and say, and by the way, Dr. Cami also, and yeah, we will be hearing from Tasha again. Dr. Cami also mentioned so many things that are so necessary for us to keep in mind when centralizing and organizing at this time. And one of those is that, yes, this is coming up against the narrative. Why do we have to do this for ourselves? Why can't we just blend in with everybody else? We've been blending in from day one prior to Windrush, from the being taken. Us and those that were left, we have all got to come together now. We have brothers and sisters in Kenya who are calling out for chapters. FACFO is an international organization in the making, but it can't happen without interaction, without fellowship, without collaboration from our brothers and sisters here. We need to come together, otherwise there is no FACFO. There is a need for it, but without your cooperation, without our coming together, it can't work. As Dr. Cami said, we've already lost. From the time when we are not doing this work, we've already lost. We have everybody that we need in our organisation, within our communities. And we do have such a rich history. We have traditions, we have rituals, we have forgotten them, but they are hidden in plain sight. And so through FACFO, we will be joining with our brothers and sisters across the world to ensure that those rituals and traditions are brought back, to also ensure that we are not buying other people's rituals and traditions and going off in other directions. There is so much planned, so much to say. Sorry, Lola, I get passionate.
No, it's absolutely allowed. So you'll notice that Laura, you're spotlighted, Tasha, you're spotlighted, and I'm going to remove myself from the spotlight because clearly nobody wants to see this face. So Tasha, can I ask you, is there anything that you want to say in response to what Dr. Cami has said sort of this afternoon, to just really buttress the point about why what we're doing, this FACFO launch, is important? You can unmute yourself when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, what was the question? Sorry, I didn't.
Is there anything that you'd like to add to what sort of Dr. Cami has said this afternoon?
I mean, she was amazing. It was so insightful. I think someone had mentioned it in the actual messages as well. It came from a different perspective. It's something that I'd not even really registered into that depth, really, but it does make a lot of sense. And I'm really excited to read her books and to read more about what she's found and her stories and the history, especially in America, because I think that we can learn a lot from overseas, and it kind of does transcend here to the UK as well, a lot of what's happened. Really, I just think it's beautiful to be united as well and to have that connection. I think that's also important. And I just think that it's great that it's growing, and we're building them bridges with other people that are in the same industry doing very similar work and who are actively promoting our Black funeral professions and telling our stories and kind of empowering us to understand that death doesn't just stop it's about the continuous work that goes on, and the counseling and the therapy that goes on afterwards, and the generational, and that's something that I'm passionate about, is the generational wealth, and passing it down from generations to come, and building our communities, and making sure that we're resilient in death, and that we're taking more ownership and governance over our loved ones, and that we know that there are choices and we do have options, and that there are funeral directors that understand us and that can service us. There are celebrants and funeral professionals that understand us, and that we don't need to apologize for being who we are, and we don't need to change our culture and our customs and our way of being. You know, we don't need to feel that we need to change what we do at the graveside. And, you know, backfilling is an important part of our community. My family, that's something that we do at funerals, but not everyone understands that. And sometimes we are silenced or ushered into coming away from that, and other traditions that we do. So I think this is a great platform and a great start, and it's lovely to hear the doctor speak about what she's found, and her understanding of you know, the death ways and stuff. I think it's amazing.
I've got a question for both of you, but to everyone here, please, 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 please go to the chat. I mean, the chat is full of so much information. Who knew that we have sort of photographers and celebrants, and there's just so many brothers and sisters that are already working within this industry. If your Zoom is like mine, at the very bottom where the chats are, there are 3 dots. And if you click on those 3 dots, at the end of it, it will enable you to save the chat. So you'll be able to save the chat and see what everybody is saying. And I'm sure that Laura, at the end of it, when she's sending out her thank you, she will also send the chat to everyone as well, so that you have details of everyone. So please, please, please continue to put in the chat what you do. A question to both of you. Teshai, you're an embalmer, which is very specialized, and I'm not sure how many, I don't know how someone so beautiful just looks at dead bodies, but there you go. Somebody's got to do it, I suppose. But to both of you, why, you know, why is death education, you know, important? Why is it really, particularly for us in the UK, that we do understand death education, and that we do participate, that we're not just going to be ignorant bystanders? And this is to both of you. So who wants to go first?
Do you want to start, Laura?
Yeah,
Go on, Laura.
I don't mind. So yeah, the question then was why, I'm sorry, I was here, I am listening. Why is it so important?
Yeah, why is death education important? Why should we participate and not just be ignorant bystanders in this process? Because as I said to Dr. Cami, we seem to be very suspicious when it comes to all things sort of death and dying. It almost as if you keep saying death long enough, you're calling death upon yourself. Yeah. Why do we need to be educated?
We can't afford to carry on as we are. We need to be aware of what happens at the end of life and following that transition. Traditionally, we know that death is not the end, it's a transition. There have been times, and Dr. Cami alluded to it, where we have celebrated death. We have used death as a tool. She mentioned it when she was talking about enslavement. There are so many of us who didn't actually make it to the Caribbean or to the Americas because we decided to jump ship. It wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a belief and a knowing that we are more than just the body. And when I say just the body, it's not just, I call this my spaceship. If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be able to communicate with you. But we don't know the half of what we can do. And as I've said before, all of our abilities, everything that makes us special, that which others seek to eliminate from us and from the earth, is hidden in plain sight. It's within us. We need to be coming together. because that's how we educate. That's how we learn the greatness of who we are. That's also how we learn to allay any feelings of fear, worry, anxiety. They are not ours. They are the Western view, the Western perspective. By coming together through edutainment and, you know, through workshops, through training, that's how we get to strengthen ourselves. And that's how we repair our network. There was a time when if somebody passed away in Leeds, there would be coaches coming from Leicester, Manchester, you know, London, Brighton even. We need to be regrouping. As I've said, there was a time when we celebrated death. And on one of my profiles, I actually referred to myself as the Grim Reaper's Chief of Staff, because death has been so misunderstood. It gets such a bad rap, really. I think death is a woman. She gets such a bad rap. She is not being respected. She is feared unnecessarily. What we need to do is come to an understanding of who we are. And once we get in line with our true nature, our true selves, not only will our endings be harmonious, but so too will our beginnings. Our births will be more harmonious. And we see that the rates at the moment that our sisters are passing away due to birth, mistakes that are being made, it's got to stop. I'm at the other end, but it literally feeds into the beginning. And the beginning, those birth doulas, feed into the end. And through that, through education, our relationships with one another will strengthen. Our respect for one another will strengthen. You know, our conflicts will fade away. They will, because we will know who we are, and we will be inclined now to work together, as opposed to being inclined to work apart. Okay, so Tasha, I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant, Laura. You really summed that up so beautifully. And I'd just like to add to that, it's quite simple. We fear the things that are unknown to us. When we don't know about something, we're very dubious to kind of deal with it and to get confronted by it. But death is one of the most guaranteed things in life. It's the most guaranteed thing in life. It will happen to each and every one of us, unfortunately. No one is immortal. So the more we get used to having conversations and educating ourselves and our families around the circumstances around death, so i.e. we're looking at funeral planning, we're looking at the finances of it, do we know what a person's wishes are, having them conversations, so when that time comes, your loved ones are equipped with all the knowledge that they need. They know who to go to, they know who to access, they've got a fair idea of how much it's going to cost, they know where them funds are coming from because they've prepared for it, they've talked about it. This will have a direct knock-on effect on how we deal with the emotional side of grief. So the bereavement, how we then process what's happened and that loss, and we don't have the other things to worry about. So it's just quite simple. Have them conversations. There's now, a FACFO directory that you can have direct access to the funeral directors in your area, to the celebrants, to all the professionals that can, even if you just needed advice, so to speak, you've got a point of call there. And it starts by having that awareness, which is a form of education. So it's crucially important, and we do it in every other industry, in every other arena. We educate, we spend time researching and training and passing on that knowledge. So why is that not passed on in the funeral industry? Why are we so shy, and why we're not sharing our expertise, and why we're not collaborating more and really creating a platform for all the professionals and all the industry leaders to kind of really be a part of something? And it's all about offering choice. We're not here trying to bully anyone into you do this and you do that. If families are aware of what's out there and they've got that choice and they're professionals that are offering a great service, then it's about creating that space so that people can make them choices for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to jump back in as well, sorry if I can, off the back of what Tasha has said. It reminded me of a conversation that I had with a sister who phoned me up following hearing another interview that I had done to promote FACFO. And she said, I can't breathe. I'm struggling to breathe. Following what you've said, it's brought up emotions and triggered. This is natural, and these emotions need to come out. We need to be expressing ourselves. We are an expressive people. For us to suppress our emotions is to introduce sickness into our bodies. And so it becomes a perpetual cycle that needs to be broken. We are coming from a background of not speaking about what happened back then. Don't chat my business. Don't speak about anything that happens in the house. When you go outside, you stand up straight, you present yourself. What happens with all that hurt that is inside? It's kept in there and it rots us. Now, the reason why I said that is because we need to remember that whilst the narrative is set by the Western society, we have traditional African practitioners who are still working. They are still here. They have been hugely and disgustingly demonized by the Western narrative. Why? Because it works. Because what we do works for us. And that is not the aim for those who are not of this culture. It benefits those who are of other cultures to keep us where we are and to keep us in place, to keep us medicated. We have our African traditional practitioners. We have our psychotherapists, hypnotherapists. I'm a hypnotherapist. We have our counselors. We have our mentors. We have our bereavement support workers. We need to be talking about our traumas, and we need to be doing so without the shame, so that when that end of life comes, we can cross over assured that we are going to be going to glory, as opposed to perhaps narratives that maybe speak of heaven and hell that bring us more fear. If you believe in that, then that's fine, but at least let's work towards addressing it so that we find ourselves in a positive space, so that when we cross over, we do so properly. And yes, we have brothers and sisters within our community who are here. They're already doing that work. And so, yeah, we just need to add everybody to the directory without fear, without worry, without stress. And then we need to call on them for their assistance. This directory can't work if we don't all put in. And we all actually as well, we all have something to offer. Every single one of us. Every single one of us. If you're a DJ, put yourself in the directory. If you're a carer, put yourself in the directory. A caterer, put yourself in. Florist, put yourself in. Who you are. When somebody you love dies, when you come across somebody who has passed away, you reach out to them, you embrace them, you do the work. We're all doing the work, okay? Again, I'm just going to pipe down.
Your enthusiasm, I mean, Pauline is a qualified estate planner. Who knew that we had qualified estate planners as part of our community? I've seen someone's a photographer. They don't specialize necessarily in funerals, but now that they're going to become part of the directory, they absolutely will. You know, we've got DJs, we've got drummers. I mean, the list is endless. So ladies, I want to say thank you for now. And I'm going to remove you from my little spotlight, put myself on the spotlight. Whew. I think we should take a breather, don't you? It has been such an eventful afternoon. And believe it or not, for Black people, we're actually running early. We're running ahead of schedule. We have a few people that have done sort of advertisements. So what we want to be able to do, this just gives you an opportunity to just kind of soak in everything that has been said this afternoon. But before I play the adverts, we're very conscious that a lot of what has been said today may trigger maybe a bereavement or something that you have been through. And that's the reason why I will show you a little presentation in a bit. We've got a bereavement and loss cafe for people that would like to join it. It's done by a wonderful lady called Debbie. She does one for the general public, and she does one that says that, you know, that black men cry too. And I just find that really, really special. So we're offering anybody that has been triggered this afternoon the opportunity to log in and join that Lost Cafe. We've already provided the details, but I will provide it again after I play the advert. So I'm going to share my screen. And let's find it first of all. Here, pull it up. Okay, here we go. I'm going to, and these are just some of our brothers and sisters that are doing things in the industry.
Introducing Sonisa Candles London. We are a small handmade scented candle company who are passionate about bringing fragrances to your home. Sonisa Candles was born when Sonia sadly passed away in 2015 following her battle with cancer. Our memorial candles offer the personal touch and messages that carry meaning and love. We have 5 fragrances: Plum Delight, Black Orchid, Wild Fig, Vanilla Dream, and Rose and Oud. Visit our website at www.sonisacandles.co.uk. You can also find us on Etsy, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under Sonisa Candles.
Greetings and welcome. I am Nunna Queenie Beloved, a UK-based death care practitioner and non-faith life celebrant, delivering professional, practical support along with beautiful, bespoke ceremonies, often soulful in flavour, always to your personal requirements, for going home, for vigil ceremony, for memorials and tribute flowers. My vocation of service is intending to your holistic soul-level needs, such as keeping vigil, providing comfort and companionship, and practical non-medical input, as well as creative funerary planning support and grief care for the dying and the bereaved. I offer Soul Child specialist condolence care and end-of-life support to families currently or historically experiencing child loss and unfulfilled pregnancy. Drawing on my professional experience as midwife, social worker, and as naturotherapist, mother, and community chaplain, I assist families as they navigate their practical, emotional, and spiritual journeys, managing and overcoming the loss of those gone too soon. As a vigil songstress, I can offer acoustic music and traditional drumming for your musical backdrop, be it for palliative time, 9-night, end-of-life service and graveside, to funeral wake and beyond. My flowers for the journey home are based upon symbols and Afro-Chintz designs. I invite you to visit my website, nqbeloved.com, for more information and to make a contact. In the meantime, have a wonderful day and thank you for listening.
Introducing Ayoisa Keepsakes. We are creating lasting memories with our personalised order of service templates. Ayoisa Keepsakes was founded with one goal in mind: to create unique keepsakes that you can add your own design and flair to. These designs are special keepsakes that can be kept forever. Visit Ayoisa Keepsakes at Etsy. Hi, I'm Laura Pusey, and I am so glad that you've been able to be with us here today. I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you about this book that I have created. It's called My Life's Tapestry. This book allows us to speak about our beautiful lives. It allows our loved ones to speak on our behalf if we are unable to let the medical professionals know exactly what we want at end of life. We're also able, through this book, to discuss those conversations that we'd really rather not have. The time has come, brothers and sisters, to purchase your copy of My Life's Tapestry. Not only does it help us to plan for the future, it's also a great and personal gift that can be handed down through the generations. This book, My Life's Tapestry, can be purchased through my website, which is dipism.com. That's www.dipism.com. DIPISM. So, this book, My Life's Tapestry, can help you to plan your funeral. It can help you to decide what experiences you want to have at end of life. Of course, none of us know when that might be, but planning in advance certainly allows us to live our lives to the fullest. Here it is, My Life's Tapestry, created with you and your family in mind. I'm Laura D. Pusey, End of Life Guide, Funeral Celebrant and Grief and Bereavement Consultant. Contact me at www.dipism.com or call 07975 861089. Let's do this together.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. I am really happy to introduce to you Tree Circle Ceremonies. My name's Amma Sade and I'm the co-founder director of Tree Circle, which was set up in 2013 just to really represent our communities now and to raise the vibration of the interaction with end-of-life care on all kind of levels. So whether it's creative palliative care using holistic methods, whether it's script writing, actually going through step by step of funeral planning and consultation, working with funeral directors, I'm really happy to have a really good relationship with a number of funeral end-of-life providers in and around London. And it's a pleasure to be working through this FACFO platform. My contact details is www.treecircleceremonies.co.uk, and I love to have a conversation and a chat about anything you might like to discuss, and you can contact me on 0744 608 5672. So don't be shy. Really, end of life and end of life services is something we really need to talk more about and have a vibration about, raise the vibration so that we get what we want. I'm really frustrated with seeing and hearing stories of this such an important time of life, and we come away feeling frustrated and undervalued and overcharged as well. So do get in touch, treecircleceremonies.co.uk. I'm proud to be part of the FACFO steering committee, so there's a number of ways that you can get in touch. Take care. Divine love and light. Ashe.
FACFO takes this opportunity to thank our brother and sister from embergsolutions.com. They have provided us with these lovely cups that feature FACFO, and they can feature anything that promotes your death-related business or apparel for your loved one. Give them a try. They are located at www.embergsolutions.com. And for FACFO customers who quote the reference number FACFO15, they will receive a 15% discount from their order. Give them a try. It's www.embergsolutions in conjunction with FACFO.
Hi, I'm Patrick Vernon. I'm a campaigner, activist, and the founder of the Majonzi Fund. The Majonzi Fund was established over 18 months ago in response to the pandemic. It's a scheme where individuals and community organisations reflecting Black and non-profit organisations and communities in Britain can apply for a small grant up to £500 to commemorate the loss of loved ones as a result of the pandemic. The grants cover a whole range of things around memorialisation and to celebrate people's life. We do not fund actual headstones or actual funeral costs itself, but it's about, for example, our first grant scheme that we gave out recently, we've given out money for park benches, planting trees, community events, commissioning artists to celebrate the loss of Black and non-ethnic life. So that's a scheme. If you want more details, you can go onto the website www.majonzi-fund.org.uk. The fund itself will launch in its second round of grants in the next week, so please look out for the details. You can register also. And Majonzi is the Swahili word meaning grief and deep sorrow, and that's the purpose of the grant, to recognise that loss within the community.
Introducing bespoke retreats for those needing support with grief and loss. We are situated in Broadstairs, Kent. Email us at retreatsbythebay@gmail.com. Contact us on 07 956 166 474.
Well, what can I say? There is so much natural talent here that we didn't even know that we could do. And I think it's just incredible to me that we are now all finally coming together to advertise the services that we do under FACFO. So a very special thank you to Laura Pusey for starting FACFO and the members of the advisory, board, which is myself and, Sister Kasheni, and the members of the steering community that have come together just to put this together. Now, there's someone that's just said something in the chat, which I think is really particularly interesting. She says, Louise said that, that those ads have literally taken her breath away. And as part of the gold package, you will actually be able to do such adverts, and they will be displayed, sort of on the website. But let's continue to come together. I'm going to hand over to Laura very quickly in a minute to say just some final parting words before we leave. As I said, we're running early this afternoon, but before that, I'm going to quickly share my screen, and I'm just going to show you about what's on offer for the rest of the day, for those of you that are in a position and are able to join. Let me just do that. As we said, after this afternoon, we're going to be able to offer you, for those of you...
I'm Debbie from Serenity Gardens.
Offer you an opportunity to join Debbie from Serenity Gardens. If anything, if you've been triggered in any way this afternoon, an opportunity for you to go and join Debbie. Debbie's actually, she's a professional celebrant. She trained with the Fellowship of Professional Celebrants. She says that, goodbyes hurt the most when the story was not finished. And this is what she mainly does. We're inviting you to join her at the Lost Cafe. The Zoom link has already been posted, I believe, for those of you that registered. But if you haven't, kind of write it down. It's 710-483-451. And the password is breathe. She also does something else that says men cry too. And that's what I was referring to earlier, that I just think it's so important that men are also able to express their grief. And those are Debbie's contact details. But if you're going to go on to join her, you'll have an opportunity to talk to her personally. So I'm going to now hand back to Laura for just any parting words and to say the goodbyes. Laura.
Certainly. Hi, thank you all again for coming this evening, today, this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for coming and joining us. I just want to sort of say to Lola, were we going to open the floor for comments? But we can discuss. On from that, I just want to, just thank you all for coming, just to recognise as well that, the FACFO organisation, everything is literally, we're starting from the ground up. This is grassroots. This is a for us, by us organisation. And so as we grow, we will only grow with you. You'll see, from the website that we have just kept things as simple and as basic as possible to make it as easy for you to just join. Everybody currently who is on the website is at the basic level. They're at the basic level. So everybody who's on there is on like basic. But the basic package is actually £25, and so that's an admin fee really. The silver is actually down as £110, and the gold is down as £145. Now, these packages, if you look along the top line and you look at them in greater detail under Register My Business, you will find that they are packed full of potential for people to come and find you so that you can administer your service or your product for them, by us, for us. Again, and I can't stress it enough, if we all work together, if we all come to the directory, then there is no reason for anybody ever again to look outside of our community. Now, my intention is to meet you all personally, face to face. My intention is to travel the country so that I can actually see you and have a relationship with you, and so that I can say proudly and easily, oh yeah, there's my brother, he will do it, he's a funeral director. Here's my sister, she's a florist. Yep, there can be brothers who are florists, and there are, of course, beautiful sisters. Just look forward to meeting with you. I look forward to joining with you. I look forward to marching by your side. My sister here, Tashai Brown, is, you know, high up in qualifications. She will be teaching my team, the team that I have around me, the team that the ancestors have brought to me. I'm going to say it, you know, I'm going to blow my own trumpet. We are the best. Yep. When it comes to training our brothers and sisters to do the work, we're the best. Now, if you believe yourself to be the best as well, then come and join us, because there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody. And you know why? Because everybody dies. And so we all need to be doing this work. It's fundamental, not just for us today, but for our descendants tomorrow. Every time I open my mouth, I just, so I'm going to stop. Brother Ian Graves in North London, who I had the pleasure of meeting this week. And he explained to me the process of repatriation. Just because I do the work that I do, I don't know everything. I'm still learning. And when I say that everything is hidden in plain sight, it literally is, because I go and see a brother like Ian Graves and I'm learning. He's teaching me what he knows. Each one teaches one, and we've all got it inside us. And so if we continue to keep an open mind, FACFO can be an organization that opens and grows and flourishes and delivers time and time again when it comes to service, when it comes to customer service, when it comes to what's that word that I'm looking for? Standards and our practices. You know, we deliver high standard. We are the creators. Let's create together. If there's anything on the website that you don't see, suggest it to us. If there's anything on the website that you think that you can do, if you are inspired at all by anything that you've heard today, if you would like to learn more, if you would like to train with us, if you would like to offer your services to us and show us what you know, what's been handed down through your generations, through your ancestors, come. Let's be together. Let's do this. Okay. I want to say thank you again to the sisters that are marching with me. So we've got Sister Kasheni, Sister Lola, Sister Tashai, Nunu Queenie, Sister Amma, and Sister Debbie, who we're going to be following now. 7 p.m. Naya, lovely to see you. Oh, lovely so much. Naya is the sister who found us through FACFO as well. She had a funeral, and she said that she was so happy with the speed in which I was able to provide her with 3 different funeral celebrants and a drummer for her to choose from. We're already working. We are already doing this work. Let's continue together. Please join the directory and let's do this. Later on, after the Lost Cafe, which is there for those who have been triggered or who want to see how a Lost Cafe works. Please do join the Lost Cafe, 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. Brother 45 and I will be hosting Africation, and on that platform we will be talking about the business of death. Whatever business means to you, we're going to be discussing it. There are no topics off the table. Yeah, everything is here to be discussed and worked on, improved upon, and grown from. So I just want to say thank you once again for coming today. And we have live streamed this, so can you please share it widely, and let's grow. Let's do it together.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm just going to add myself for a moment. I'm also going to add, Tasha, I'm going to add you as, let me add you, and I'm going to add.
Okay.
Well, what can I say, everyone, about this afternoon? It has been awe-inspiring. I actually feel really humbled. And just to read what Nailuk said, she said, I want to offer a review of the services offered by Laura Pusey and her team. My uncle passed earlier in the year and I was referred to her service. She offered the same warm, sensitive and professional energy that she's displaying here. I was referred through her partners to drummers and other community-based services and felt like I had her support every step of the way. My uncle had the service he deserved despite the limitations we had on us, and would give 5 over 5 for service. She also wants to say thank you as well for inviting her to this talk. She says that I am inspired, as mentioned before, and look forward to connecting with you to discuss training and options for me to be part of this beautiful service, which is vital for our community this time. There is nothing else to say beyond that. Ayo says, thank you so much for launching FACFO. This type of service is overdue. I'm going to take everybody now off mute so that you'll be able to speak. And can I ask, if we can, just to say a massive thank you to Laura and to Tashai, and also to Dr. Cami, who has now gone, for just amazing presentations that we all offered. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, Debbie's Lost Cafe actually starts at 2, but what we've done is we're giving her the opportunity just to spend some time with her regulars, and then to warn them that we're all coming to descend on them at 2:30 or 3 o'clock. This really does bring us to the end. Do join Debbie's Lost Cafe. In fact, you can just, as soon as we end this call, you can jump straight on, or you can have a little break if you want to, and then join at 2:30 or join at 3 o'clock. Laura's spoken about what's going to happen this evening. This is a FACFO launch day, so there's more happening sort of later on as well. For those of you that have to go, we're going to say thank you for coming and spending your afternoon with us. For those of you that are staying on, I've got Tashai and I've got Laura. They're still here. I'm going to give them the opportunity, give you an opportunity to ask them questions directly without my intervention. So for those of you that have to go, thank you so much. But for those of you that may have any questions, we're happy to keep the Zoom open for another sort of 10 minutes. And yeah, thank you very much for allowing me to be your little hostess this afternoon. My name is Lola Sarah, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So anyone that has questions, please feel free to ask the ladies. As I said, they will be available for the next sort of 10 minutes, but then we'll then see you all at Debbie's Lost Cafe. So ladies, I'm going to remove my spotlight, and the spotlight is on you. If you have any questions, please feel free. He says, how do we join the Lost Cafe at 2:30? Right. I believe that you may have already been sent the information, but if in any doubt, ladies, forgive me, let me quickly share my screen again, just so that I can provide this information. It's the very last slide, I believe. It's this slide here.
Yeah.
So there it is. So the Lost Cafe, the Zoom link is 710-483-451, and the password is breathe.
Also, we did send out emails to everybody who was able to register. And so the links are on those emails, the links to the Lost Cafe and the links to the Africation Show. If by any chance you don't have those links or you'd like to join us, the number, take this number down, get a pen and paper and message us on WhatsApp. The number is 07986 726 238. That's 07986 726 238.
Thank you for that, Laura. So do we have, are there any questions for either Tashai or Laura, or are you just all delighted and all your questions have been answered sort of this afternoon? If you would like to, I'm happy for you to just sort of unmute yourself and ask them the question. If there's one or two of you that are actually, yes, I have a hand up. My darling, let me ask you to unmute and because it'd be lovely to see your lovely face. I'm going to spotlight you, Marie, so please go ahead and ask your question.
It's not so much as a question, it's to actually say thank you very, very much for this launch. Our community, I believe, has been exploited for many, many years, and it's wonderful that there's a one-stop place for us to go to. When my sister died 6 years ago, a federation like this would have been fantastic. It was only through family members and knowing people in the community that we were able to give her the homegoing service that she required. I will declare that I am Laura's cousin, and seeing this coming to the forefront, where it means that all people, members of our communities, can have celebrants, have drummers, and just send our people home in the way in which they should be sent home, how we can honour their passing as they are passing and after they have gone, and go back to some of the traditional values and ways in which some of us want to do. It's wonderful. So my blessings to all of the ladies and gentlemen involved. Thank you. I will continue to post and share everything that you do. You have my blessings and my support.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that's literally what this is about. Sharon has said, is there any information about purchasing burial plots in South London would be appreciated. And as I say, we're going to save these chats, and if there are any specific questions directed at us, we will come back to you all sort of individually. I think we have time for one more either question or observation from anyone at all. Please feel free to put up your hand or take yourself off mute and ask.
Hello, good afternoon.
Sir. Good afternoon.
My name is Ian Greaves of Greaves Funeral Services.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Ian.
I want to say thanks to you. It's a very good organization, and the service that we are putting out there. I have to admit that Laura did come down to see me last week, and we had a good chat in my office in Leighton. And, I am pleased to know that we are actually getting our act together and doing something very positive as Black people, and obviously, look, I will be in touch with Laura. I'm sure she's listening, and we'll keep in touch, and, we'll be always here to help people.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And also, we look forward to working with you. Brother Ian actually said, because he's located in Leighton, he is willing to go anywhere in the UK. And so many of our funeral directors have said that they're willing to go everywhere in the UK until sisters like Tashai and our other sisters have trained up enough people in the community. Have car, will travel. Wherever you are in the UK, consider yourself covered by FACFO. So thank you, Brother Ian, for reminding me that, and look forward to working with you.
And I have to say, Laura provided such wonderful feedback about, about Brother Ian, and just how willing he was to share of his knowledge of the industry to her. And I think that's really particularly important as well. The challenge of hoarding information and taking it to your grave, I think that stops now. We now have a Federation of African and Caribbean Funeral Operatives, where we're coming together as one to make sure that the death and dying process is easy. So ladies, before we go, any final words from either of you? I know I made you talk a lot this afternoon, but just any sort of passing words. We're at 20 past and we're going to be out of here by 1/2 because integrity demands that we stick to time. So any final words from any of you? You're on mute. Sorry, take yourself off mute. Thank you.
I was just going to say a huge thank you to Laura and the team. I think you're doing a smashing job, honestly. And I couldn't be prouder to be connected with, you know, like-minded women, professionals that are really on a beautiful journey for the funeral industry. And I'm really pleased and happy to be a part of it. So well done and thank you. And yeah, I'm excited for what the possibilities will be.
Thank you. And Laura, any final parting words for you before we go?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it has to be mutual love. You know, when I first heard about Tasha, I was like, oh, okay, the first female Black in Burma, or the first female in Burma in the UK, full stop. And I was like, hold on, I'm not doing enough. And when I hear, like, you know, the things that you have achieved, Sister Tasha, you are a gift to the community. You really are. And how more people don't know about you is like, what? I think so many of our gems are just hidden, and it's time for us to now, you know, come to the surface. And so, yeah, it's a pleasure to be able to work with you and the other sisters, primarily that the ancestors have brought into the circle, so that we can stand up and guide our brothers and sisters. Not from a position of like we're the boss, do it our way, you know, but togetherness. And I think that's what's been missing for so many generations, way back, you know, even maybe when we were all on the continent together. Let's do this, let's work.
Thank you.
And it's joyful work, and it's a spiritual work, and it's a necessary work. Let's acknowledge all of that and our beauty and our glory, and let's rise together.
We're gonna end this now with parting words from Peter. Peter says, you guys are doing a great work. Thank you for bringing this all together. He also said, Tasha is outstanding. Proud to work with her. So on behalf of all of us, we want to say thank you so much for coming to join us this afternoon at the launch of FACFO. We wish you all a very pleasant afternoon. If you're coming, we look forward to seeing you at the Los Cafe, which, as I say, you can join now, or you can give yourself sort of like a little break and then come and join us sort of a little later on. Good afternoon.
Okay, Can we end with Unchained Melody, please, which is sung by Sister Nunu Queenie, just to see us off, and thank you so much.